Joe Polish,
Hey, Dean Jackson, what's up?
what are you doing here?
Making your day a better day. The time we're recording this, I don't even know if we should mention what day it is. It's sort of like a holiday, I guess, but
Is
not
it?
for us.
Not for us. Money never sleeps, Bud Fox.
Yeah, are we podcasting at the moment, or is this
We're
just chit
podcasting,
chat?
so this is it.
Okay,
I mean, I
let's
don't know if
go.
you've ever seen one of my podcasts. This is raw. We just recorded. We got the whole hour,
You know,
and
I made you famous in podcasting, Dean. I mean, like you were doing Marketing Mondays before we started doing I Love Marketing in
that's true.
2010, but I think I recorded a podcast earlier than you did because the very first podcast I ever recorded was for one of my Piranha Marketing boot camps back in 2005. So,
Yeah, me
and no
too.
one knew what podcasts were back then.
I know. Yeah, it's funny, right? When I first started, I think at the time, there were 500 podcasts in the directory, right? It was a directory
Right.
thing. And how you could cheat the system was that you could sort them by alphabetical, by recency, and by popularity, right? And so I named my podcast was Marketing Monday, but the title thing I used was dash 10 marketing ideas in 10 minutes dash. And
Right.
so whenever you sort it alphabetically, it would come up as the number one thing, and that would drive popularity. And I was posting every week, so they were recent. So no matter how people were sorting the podcast directory back in 2005, that was the momentum. So I got up, you know, that was how we kind of built the audience. It was funny.
Yeah,
People
yeah, yeah. I
for
mean,
years.
it's really wild. I mean, when you think about it, and uh, I always go back to three things you need in order to sell something. I would talk with Gary Halbert about this. You need a product or service, you need a sales pitch or a marketing message, and then you need a delivery system. And there
Mhm.
became this new way to deliver content to people because prior to that, we were sending out cassette tapes and then
Yeah,
CDs and then this thing called podcasting came along. And I sort of have some regrets that we never really made it a primary thing. It was always something we did off to the side because we got
right,
so many famous people that are,
right.
now have billions of downloads to actually get into podcasting.
Yeah,
And I got Dan Sullivan to start podcasting in 2012 with I think the show I do with him is still the most downloaded show he does, the 10X Talk one. But
for
it's
sure.
he loves podcasting and it's like a vehicle for
It's his
uh,
love language now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I say though a lot of my friends, if they're not willing to go to therapy or a 12-step group or something, what they do instead is they start a podcast. Uh,
hmm,
everyone's got one. And
that's
with I Love
exactly.
Marketing, I mean, there was a time where me and you would do an interview. We did an interview with what was his name? Mark, that I can't remember his last name. And we made his book a New York Times bestseller simply
Yeah,
by the podcast we did. The book he did with Brian Tracy on how to build a great business. I think that's the title
yes.
of the book. But I've interviewed over 2,000 people. It's kind of funny. I'm starting to forget
Well, I
everyone's.
remember, I would give anything to have the access to the podcast recording that we did with Tim Ferriss because you remember we had done a podcast. He didn't have a podcast. He was doing his blog. And we
Yeah,
spent 30 minutes after the podcast trying to tell him that he should be doing a podcast. And he was so dead set on his blog as his thing, as the written vehicle or whatever.
right.
And it's just funny. I would love to hear that.
I know, no, I've tried to actually find that, but I'm woefully disorganized with
Mhm.
there's so much content that we've created over the years that who knows, it exists somewhere
It's
maybe
in
on
the
the
ether
cloud.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, I would love to show that conversation because he was arguing about why I believe he did. I can barely remember that conversation
yeah.
other than I know that we were trying to talk him into it and he didn't. He wasn't really receptive to it. But things changed and he obviously became
Things
receptive to
change.
it. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So, you and I've been talking about event marketing. And you and I've done a lot of events between us and together. Uh, and I thought it'd be really good to, um, kind of have this conversation, look back on some of the things that you've learned from doing big events. And I
Sure.
got a couple of things that I'd love to unpack, that I've observed that you've done, and I'd love to see your thought process around them, and then brainstorm some ideas, which is how this originally started, for marketing for the annual event coming up that
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
every year, and it's coming
Well,
up in November.
yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on how you see the marketing that I do. I mean, we've known each
Mhm.
other for it's 25 years, right?
More, almost 30.
Yeah. So it's yeah, we've certainly done a lot of events. And what's funny is I will say this. I first heard Dan Sullivan say this, where when people are at a strategic coach workshop, as an example, or at Genius Network,
Mhm.
uh, there's a lot of people that will count all of the people in the room and then they'll do the
Mhm.
math, right?
Do the
And
addition.
everyone does the arithmetic, but no one does the subtraction.
Right,
And
exactly.
I can't if I had a dollar for every bozo that has just tried to throw together a mastermind group or run an event,
Yeah.
uh, that thinks it's just charge a high price, throw a bunch of
Mhm.
people in a room and you're going to get rich. I mean,
Mhm.
there is a art and a science to this that is very difficult. And I learned something back in 2000. I don't even know if you were there, but I decided, remember the Y2K stuff? Now, for younger
Yeah.
people that weren't born there, they're like, what are you guys
Mhm.
talking about? Where there was
Everybody
this,
was in a panic that the world was going to end when the clocks all switched over to 2000.
right. And so, whenever there's an event, the
Mhm.
holidays or something happening that you can tie in a reason
Mhm.
for people to do something. That's why holidays exist. Halloween and Christmas and Thanksgiving. Sending out Thanksgiving cards is you're going to probably get more attention than sending out Christmas cards because there's less people
Mhm.
sending out Thanksgiving cards. And what a great way to say thank you to your clients by
Mhm.
physically sending them a thank you card. You could, of course, send them thank you videos and you could text them and email them and all that stuff. But there's something about an event that gives people a reason. And I learned that back with carpet cleaning when I was selling carpet cleaning services. People don't wake up and say, boy, I really hope the cat pees in the corner so I can call a carpet cleaner. There's an event that's usually taking place that
Mhm.
requires them to do it. So there are ways to tie in events. So I did this event called Transformation 2000. So prior, and it was the year 2000, and this was in 1999. And I had the football player Brian Holloway. I had Nathaniel Brandon, the self-esteem doctor who was brilliant. I believe I had Ned Hollowell, who was the top ADD ADHD psychiatrist. I think Marie Folio spoke there. Trying to think who it all was. But what I learned is it is a lot easier to run an event where people perceive it's going to teach them how to make more money and build their business than it is how to fix their head. Because this
Mhm.
one was about mindset. This was what it was about psychology, this event. And it was an amazing event. I mean, I was a young guy and it was just really transformative to everyone there. But it was 5 times more difficult to put people in the room than it was if you're going to sell money at a discount, as they call it, right? Where
Yeah, I
and
agree.
so over the years, I don't emphasize, um, the Genius Network, as an example, is all about making money. It's about health, mental and physical. It's about wealth, not just making money but not losing it, two different skill sets. And then, of course, ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun versus half. Build an ELF business, easy, lucrative, and fun versus a half business, which is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating, or often hard, annoying, lucrative, and frustrating because not all money is created equal. But
Mhm.
even that doesn't really describe it because Genius Network is a connection network, and it's not been built because of some fancy ad or website or funnel or any of
Mhm.
that stuff. It's literally something that has been built over years of,
Mhm.
from my perspective, trying to be helpful and useful to people. Very similar to when me and you did our first I Love Marketing podcast, which first started out with ihatemarketing.com. And then I
Mhm.
bought the website ilovemarketing.com because they're like, okay, because at first I remember us talking, and I was like thinking, what do we call this thing? And it's like, well, we're going to talk about marketing. So, and why do people hate marketing? Because they don't know how to make it effective. So, what if we taught how to do marketing effectively? Then they would probably love it. And so we created the I Love Marketing podcast. And the first conversations we had was let's not try to sell or market anything. Let's just give a really valuable thing until
Yeah.
people started complaining, like, I don't understand what's wrong with you guys. You're teaching us how to sell
I
something, but you're not trying to sell us anything, which is a long game value creation approach because I've always tried to plant the seeds in people's minds to uh, know the difference between ethical and unethical marketing. There's so many skilled marketers that just have no morals. I mean, or ethics, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
They fleece people, and it gives really good, effective marketers, caring marketers, a bad name. And so, one of the things that I've always done to sell is demonstrate value, not just try to convince people. It goes
Mhm.
back to your really amazing line, which is, a compelling offer is 10 times more powerful than a convincing argument. And a lot of times I have sold stuff, but I didn't really have a compelling offer.
Mhm.
Sometimes I've put things together and they've had success, but I look back at it going, I did a terrible job of communicating what the hell this thing even is. And I kind of get stuck sometimes in, my ideation that I have really cool things and people come to it, but they don't even know
Mhm.
what the hell they're coming there for. It just happens to
Right.
work out and they happen to love it, but I didn't
Yeah.
really articulate that. So how do you call that? So how do we decipher and piece apart that in an instructional way for the people that are listening to this? Because obviously, what we want to parlay to everyone.
Let's trace. I've got an idea around that. Let's trace the evolution because we've both done lots of events. And
Yeah.
do you remember your very first event? Do you remember your exposure to events, both as a participant and as a giving an event? Would you remember your
I'm
both
trying
of
to
those
think
moments?
I don't know what my very first seminar might have been. I mean, it was somewhere. I mean, a big event, one of the first biggest events that I went to was a Tony Robbins event, I think probably
Yeah,
in 1990. I remember meeting
yeah,
Les Brown in 1991. I still have that picture of me and my assistant Eunice, who's been with me uh, for over 30 years. She's been my
yeah.
assistant. She was actually working in my carpet cleaning business back in 1991. Like, 'cause
Uh-huh.
I was best friends with her husband Marty in high school, and we went to an event where Les Brown was there, and it's funny because I wrote the foreword to Les's latest book, right?
Right.
Which how full circle things come around,
That's
but
exactly. Do you
yeah,
remember talk about Tony Robbins and Les Brown? And
yeah.
one Tony was one of the very first big events that I went to as well. And just the irony and the amazing circle of life of the very first big Tony Robbins event I went to was in the same building where you and I spoke in Toronto on the stage to 5,000 people with Tony Robbins and Les Brown, both
Yeah, and then we were
on
on the
stage.
panel together with him.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
imagine the full circle of 1990 being in the audience, being there. I remember that's the first time I met Tony Robbins. I mean, he had no idea who I was, but I remember shaking his hand and thinking, man, that guy's got big hands. And he had this big ring. Little to know that, years later, we'd become friends. We would, I'd golf with him, have him be part of one of his programs. We'd speak on the same stage as him. all of those things. But that the event business, what got me to the Tony Robbins event was a micro event that somebody had done in my office, my real estate office.
Hmm.
So I was a real estate agent, as you know, and Tony had a whole army of people who would go and do meetings, do office presentations. So if you had an office with 30 or 50 people in the office, they would send somebody to do a presentation, do a meeting, at your office, and of course, then introduce you to the idea that Tony's coming to town and you should come to his big event. And that
Right.
model, I mean, that was how Joe Stump, who that I partnered up with in the '90s to build Butterfly. He got started doing that for Brian Tracy and for Tom Hopkins. He was one of the guys going and doing the meetings in the things, and one of the I remember I think it's important to think about the genesis of these things because it's a through line to exactly where we are right now. And Joe said I think it was his uncle or somebody that he was there in real estate with, they were in an office and they were at a big seminar like that. And his uncle leaned over to Joe and said, I think you'd be good at that, like the right words at the right time, right? Like that just planted the seed that and if anybody was built to be a lead singer of a band or a speaker, there's the prototype. If you were ordering it from Central Casting, you couldn't get better than Joe Stump. I mean,
Right.
he's one of the best speakers and the best, like most charismatic uh, personality leaders in speaking. People love him. So
Well, let me
yeah.
say this to not lose anyone that's listening. You don't often have to be charismatic in
Hmm.
order to run events. There's some people, let's take Giovanni, who has his Archangel thing, right? So
Hmm.
I spoke at his first U.S. event that he did, which is the first time I've actually spoken at one of his events, even though I gave
Hmm.
one of my Piranha marketing programs when he was an employee at Strategic Coach, what,
Hmm.
15 years ago or whatever. And he ended up, that's what got him into the business, which he's talked quite a bit about. And I went and
Hmm.
spoke at it. And he admittedly is shy, introverted, uh, has a really hard time with crowds, but he built a big event business
Hmm.
and seminar business as a result of just learning many of the things that he will say he learned from us, but we've learned. What did we learn? We learned from other people. We learned about marketing. We learned about
Hmm.
messaging. We learned about writing copy. My first event really was, going to. Uh, I used to be the Arizona director of the Carpet and Fabric Care Institute in 1992 and 1993, so I used to bring these certification events to Arizona to educate carpet cleaners on pH levels and fiber identification and flood restoration because I was trying to build my own carpet cleaning business. And then, I ended up turning my small carpet cleaning business around by what I had learned, not just marketing wise, although that was the most important, but just, how to better run a business. And then my very first event that I officially held that was like a big event, my first Piranha Marketing Boot Camp was in 1995, and it had 62 people at $1,000 a person. And I thought, oh my God, I just, I pulled off one of the greatest things ever. I worked really hard. I mean,
Hmm.
and I was already selling courses at that point.
Yeah.
People that bought the course, we offered them an event for $1,000, and I still have that group photo of me sitting there with all those people, and it was. The hotel's now changed names, but it was in Tempe, Arizona, less than half a mile from the headquarters of the National Speakers Association at the time. And unfortunately, they sold that building during
Mm.
COVID, which is a bummer because I there's a little bit of history there for me that I
Hmm.
like.
Hmm.
But yeah, but th that was it, and I was off to the races. Then I started doing events that got bigger, and then we had hundreds of people, and now, like you'd mentioned, we've spoken in front of 5,000 people, and we've done a lot of stuff. But now I personally think I run, and I'm biased, of course. I don't think anyone does events better than we do now in terms of
Hmm.
the type of event. So when I say better than, better means depends on what you're looking for. You
Hmm.
know, if you want the best digital marketing event in the world purely on that, that's not my event. If you want something totally on just health, that's not my event. If
Hmm.
you want an event on identifying all of the spiritual practices to balance your chakras, that's not my event. Although our events cover everything under the sun. Like people, I think a lot of it now, people just don't know what's going to happen. And I
Hmm.
always try to think of how to be the most useful to build a better entrepreneur. So some of it's
Hmm.
business, but a lot of it is who you are as a person. So I want to shock and awe people, and I want every single speaker or interview or conversation or the tools that we have people utilize. I want them to be super valuable and I want to do all of it not by doing a dog and pony show and not manipulating the audience and not orchestrating seating the audience because there's about to be the enrollment pitch that's going to come up at on the second day and pitch everyone. And there's a time and a place to do all of that depending on the
Yeah.
model of how someone does events. So I'm not saying that those things are wrong. As a matter of fact, if you don't sell certain people based on price points, it would be impossible to actually effectively run events. I've just figured out how to do Genius Network in a way, people say it at every meeting. It's like, wow, I just got back from a different meeting and the feeling was completely different. You guys
Mm.
genuinely care, and I don't feel like, so yeah, I try to do
Well,
events without
yeah, part of that is, you were kind of one of the first to really understand and invest in the idea of getting popular people at an event, like getting, we lovingly call them shamoos, or
yeah.
getting, like getting, what was your first intro into, what spurred that idea, and what did you notice as the difference of bringing, like, because
Well, it's
I
it's
remember, like, you were talking about Brian Holloway and people that had celebrity, you were doing that kind of thing. And then Richard Branson was probably the first, like, really big shamu that
Yeah,
you
yeah. The first billionaire I had was Branson in the 2007 event that I did for, of all things, it was for carpet cleaners, right? And there were other
Mhm.
people that were not in the carpet cleaning business that were book authors and big name people would come to my events just simply due to the horsepower of who I would bring. I mean, I think I had Bill Phillips at that event
Mhm.
also, who wrote Body for Life. I was his marketing consultant starting back in 1995. So he was, that was the top fitness book of all time at the time. So he
Mhm.
was a big name, but the first real billionaire was Branson. So I've had many billionaires at the events now, but the thing with a billionaire, it's funny where the idea came from. Before it was really, Gary Halbert when I first was introduced to Gary Halbert, and you start learning about these events where they would bring in experts and they would, you know, be groups of people bundled together. And then I started I remember driving Dan Kennedy to Tucson, Arizona for an event that he was doing. Then, we had become friends and we started eating lunch almost weekly when he was in town for a period of time. And Dan is just an absolute character. Doesn't really like people, but he's very understands psychology and marketing. And so I remember going backstage with him to those. There were these Peter Lowe's Zig Ziglar events, and I'll tell you this: there were good speeches. There were always ex-presidents, ex-football players, sometimes current football players, NBA players. So those were they called them the shamus, right? They would
Mhm.
bring the audience, and then the salespeople, like Dan Kennedy at the very end or Zig Ziglar, they would
Mhm.
pitch courses, and that's what brought in the money. Uh,
Yeah.
they were amazing events because they're big stadiums of people. But what I didn't like about them, they did it under a nonprofit status so that they could get nonprofit advertising rates. And so they would do an optional spiritual section for about 15 minutes where they would get up and, talk about um, religion, I guess, God,
Mhm.
spirituality. No, well, not spirituality. It's really is more. I personally found it to be kind of not kind of very manipulative.
Mhm. Right.
And
Not
and
kind of
it
manipulative.
not kind of, yeah, I'm trying to be nice here, but in reality it was like it was questionable. I mean, many people got value, but it was a bit of a like, come on, really? And but it worked. And sometimes they probably lost money, but for the most part, when they would travel around the US, I mean, it was a lot to manage though. When you're putting in,
Mhm.
so I never did events at that size because I found
Mhm.
them to be, I like selling things to people that already have a business. I'm not really in the business opportunity space. Even when I
Mhm.
was selling to carpet cleaners, I was selling to existing business owners, teaching them how to enhance what they do. So I'm more of an enhancement guy. Go to
Mhm.
people that are, even though I was the epitome of a self-help person going, just seeker trying to find things and putting courses and events on credit cards to try to learn. I'm very careful to, who I sell things to, and I don't want to try to give capabilities to people that don't have the money or the ability to put into use what it is that we're offering. So that's why I focus Genius Network on people that are first and foremost ethical. Uh, Once in a while, you don't know who someone is until they sneak in, and then you find
Mhm.
are paying reputation management companies or they spin a story. So over the years, I've had some of the most well-known famous marketers and gurus and stuff like that. And I've distanced myself from a lot of these people because a lot of them just show up because they're just trying to figure out what we do so they can steal it. Because
Mhm.
there's a whole, I mean, half. I talked to John Carlton about this. He said that he thinks 25% of the marketers are sociopaths, 25% uh, psychopaths, 25% are narcissists, and the other 25% are probably normal people. And of course, there's no science to back any of this sort of up. It's just
As is any of those quotes that he makes. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
It's
it's a
kind of
wild
funny.
guess, but but the thing is, like, yeah, there's different ways to package stuff. So to go back to the question about a big name speaker.
Mhm.
So I had gone to dinner with Richard Branson. Ben Altadonna actually invited me to a dinner in San Francisco with a guy named Mike Faith, and he called me up. You want to have dinner with Richard Branson? I was like,
Which you
"What's
invested in to go, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm going to explain that.
Yeah.
So, because
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, how do you meet all these people? It's like, well, now I meet them because once you meet a few, then all of a sudden people actually think you're important. It's kind of funny. But here's the thing, it's to not have people think you're important. The real key is be important, be valuable. It's
Mhm.
it's the title of my book. What's in it for them? I mean, I explain my whole process in my book.
Mhm.
What's in
Mhm.
it for them about how to be valuable to someone in advance, not because you're trying to get something. It's not, Adam Grant, who, I met Adam at Ariana Huffington's house back in what, 2014 or whatever. He wrote a book called Give or Take, where he talks about givers, takers, and matchers. My whole thing is just be a giver, right?
Mhm.
And however, you want to give to the right people because if
Mhm.
you give to, and I spent at least, and I still mess up often. Well, I will take my giving intentions in nature and be valuable to someone that really is just there to exploit you. And I always say that if you're a giver, you're going to be a magnet for takers, and they're very shrewd. Some of them they present themselves as caring people, but I have a friend who is, she's in the White House, and I was in the White House for the first time about, I don't know, about 3 months ago. And
Mm.
when Bobby Kennedy, who's a friend, was doing the Maha report, and I said to her, I go, so now that you're here, what's the best and the worst part of this? She's like, well, the best part of it is ever since I was a young girl, I really had dreams of doing something significant in impacting people in the world and being able to matter and make big decisions. And she's like, oh my God, I never would have dreamed that here I am. She's like,
Hmm.
that's the good part. The bad part is every single day I'm talking to someone that is acting like they're my friend and they care about me while they're simultaneously trying to stab me in the back. She's like, when you hear it's just politics, you know, and she's been in this world for years now, but she's like, you have no idea what that actually means till you're in there. So a lot of it's show business. A lot of it is like being in, you know, if you remember back in school, when I was in high school, there were punkers and there were rockers and there were stoners and there were
Mm.
the academics and the jocks and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's like the version of Breakfast Club, right? But as
Yep.
we, the movie Breakfast Club, and we, today, you know, business is filled with good people, bad people, people trying to get ahead, sometimes desperate, sometimes caring, sometimes compassionate, sometimes selfish. You know, it's a whole mixed bag. But the Shamus, there's something about celebrity where
Yeah.
when someone is well known, somehow people think that they hold a secret that they don't have,
Yeah.
and oftentimes they don't have it. And it's not
Yeah.
even what they say. Because I've interviewed Richard Branson as an example dozens of times. I mean, I've spent 6 weeks of my life on Necker Island. I quit going because a lot of it I don't really like what takes place in some of the conversations with some of the people that go there that try to act like do-gooders when they're you know,
And the mosquitoes. Don't forget the mosquitoes.
oh, the mosquitoes are awful, but they've done a better job of eradicating them over the years. But
Yeah.
some sort of, but without going far off track, let me just say that when it comes to marketing events, bringing big names is valuable,
Hmm.
but it's that alone rarely makes for a great event. It's what happens with those people. They may be a draw, but what is often a bigger draw is identifying who the right people are, putting the right people in the room,
Hmm.
making sure there's alignment with what you're delivering. Uh,
Hmm.
I have this, I won't mention his name. He's got a well-known company that he recently sold, and he's like trying to start mastermind groups. And you know, I'm gonna give him like, and I like this person. He's a cool dude. He has no clue how to run events. And I
Hmm.
have people that have gone and spoke
Hmm.
because he's got enough cachet value in the marketplace to where he can get big name people. And he's done like 3 events that are mastermind groups.
Hmm.
And everyone I've spoken with that are friends of mine that have gone, they're like, it's an absolute joke. I mean, it's
Mm.
so disorganized. He has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah,
He's
so
just,
many times people think about they just do the mechanics. We're going to have an event. We're doing an event or we're doing a mastermind. But you mentioned something about not, you've uncovered the value of them. And at first you can use those shamus as a draw. But I think it would be important to tell about what happened at last year's Genius Network annual event. So you've
yeah.
gotten to this point where you kind of own the fall as the premier event of the fall every November or October or whenever it is, right? That the annual event is you're committed to topping it and making it better and better. But last year you had pulled off one of the most amazing feats of having Bobby Kennedy and Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson all in the same room. You did individual interviews with them and then a panel with all of them. And nobody even knew they were coming to the event. You didn't use it as a way to draw people to the event. You used it as a way to create an amazing payoff experience, emotional adventure for the people who did come to the event.
Yeah, and there was also another reason I did it too. There's a lot of people that they don't sign up for the event, or they'll, and other people try to plan events around the time that I do my events, and
Mhm.
they try to sift off of my event in order to do their events around the same time or whatever.
Mhm.
And then there's other people that just are obnoxious people that like to compete, and I'm a collaborative person. I'm not really, there's people
Yeah.
that are full-blown competitors and there's people that are collaborators. And I'm very
Mhm.
much a collaborator, and I don't think really competitive minded people are very good at collaborating. And there are some smart people that are just competitive mindsets, and I don't function well with those people because I really like collaborative people.
Mhm.
And so the reason I didn't tell anyone either is because I knew a lot of people would be like, damn it, I missed it. And I did. I probably had 30 people that are like, why didn't
Yeah.
you tell me they're going to be there? I would have signed up. And I said, for that exact
Exactly.
reason, because,
Exactly.
when have I not put on an amazing event that is worth, infinite more than what I charge for it in terms of value? And a lot of them, it was just like to just, to me, I laugh at the regret of
Mhm.
people that won't pull the trigger even when I have helped transform their lives or my group has helped transform their lives. Because I have
Mhm.
people that have come into Genius Network and have paid, the fee, which is not cheap. Started out as a $25,000 a person group. It's now 35 grand for a Genius Network, and it's 100 grand for the 100K group. But the only event that I do every year that someone that's not a member of Genius Network can attend is the Genius Network annual event. And so that's where people can meet the people that are in Genius Network, see all the
Mhm.
amazing industry transformers that we have. And they can, it's more of a seminar, whereas the Genius Network meetings are, they're really, we do some masterminding in the groups,
Yeah.
but we help them plan out their business, and we expose them to all kinds of capabilities and people that are very capable. So it's a capability network, it's a connection network. And so the annual event, people can attend. If they like it, they can then apply the cost of the annual event towards becoming a Genius Network member if they decide to do that. And
Mhm.
so what I did was I sit and constantly think, what's going on in the world economically, politically? People say there's all kinds of things you should not talk about. We talk
Mhm.
about all those things at Genius Network. I mean,
Right.
you know, there's conversations about everything. So and it's very open and it's very vulnerable. We talk about addictions, we talk about politics, we can, talk about guns, we'll talk about abortion, right? Now that is just to, if someone's never been to one, I don't want to frame it as like a controversial thing because it really isn't. I think last year was probably perceived as one of the most controversial things. But I always try to balance it out. The year prior, I had brought Bobby Kennedy for the first time, and he was, currently he was running, and it was not a political fundraiser. It was not me telling people who you should vote for. I was
Mhm.
actually trying to just get to know Bobby, even though I'd met him previously. I was just trying to get to know him more, and I had, you know. Paul Johnson, who has spent most of his life, former mayor of Phoenix. He helped run a couple of presidential campaigns, predominantly liberal. Now he's independent. And I also had Martha McSally, who was the Arizona senator and congresswoman and the first female combat fighter pilot. She's actually a Genius Network member. And I had both of them give talks. And then I sat Martha and Bobby together at the evening 100K dinner that we did, right? And they totally hit it off and became friends. So then fast forward the following year, the elections are coming, and my event is already scheduled 3 days after the presidential election. We have no idea really
Yeah,
who's going
where
to
which
win. And I'm
direction
like,
it's going. Nobody knew.
yep. And I'm like, who the heck could I possibly, what are the conversations that need to take place? Because
Hmm.
there's a lot of tension
Hmm.
in the world. There's a lot of tension in people's businesses. And we had no idea. So I was like, okay, let me find who are the most culturally relevant people talking about the most culturally relevant topic, right?
Hmm.
But also, I don't want to make it about politics. I want to make it about business. So let's take Vishen Lakhiani. So who he's outspokenly like can't stand Trump. He's, talking about all kinds of stuff. I interviewed him very early on the first day, And then I had Dr. Jeff Bland, who invented functional medicine. I had Sam Horn, who's awesome, talking about communication. I had some amazing speakers and some amazing talks, not just, but I didn't tell anyone about in the afternoon
Yeah.
we would have first Bobby Kennedy, then I brought on Jordan Peterson, and then after that, Tucker Carlson. And everyone was like, what the heck is
What is
going on?
happening?
And
Yeah.
and there were some people in the audience that didn't like them. So I know that I think Tucker probably the most. There was, uh,
Uh,
but I'll tell you, like I had people that are full-blown liberals that came up to me and said, I never took any time to listen. I mean, I had five people tell me this that I
right.
just never watched Tucker. I never listened to
Yeah.
Jordan. I didn't follow Bobby, and
Right.
I kind of watched the news and I had opinions of who these people are, and that was
Hmm.
really, I'm paraphrasing here, but the summary was very positive. Like, thank
Yeah.
you for bringing them here. Thank you for, and I also made a Q&A where people in the audience could ask them questions, right?
Yeah.
So that blew everyone away. And yeah, just over the top.
Hmm.
People really found that extremely valuable with a couple of people, like much less than I thought. There was like two people that just could not listen because they were judging the message by the messenger. They just didn't like them, right? But
Hmm.
for the most part, it was an absolute game changer. And that event was sold out 3 weeks before.
Before. Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
I
what
and
I'm
I did
saying.
not
And
need.
without any mention of those, it wasn't using them to fill the event.
Correct. And
Mm-hmm.
it's expensive to get people
Mm-hmm.
like that there. The security alone, we
Hmm.
had to, I mean, like you saw it. I mean, there's
I
like
saw
massive
exactly. Yeah.
amounts of security that are needed. And so the point is, why do I do that? Because I really want people to be blown away. I want to exceed expectations. This year is going to be phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, and there's a couple of people that, and I'm so tempted to mention it because it's, of
I
course,
was just
like
gonna say you're not mentioning any of the.
no, I mean the people
Oh,
that are on the website that I am publicly mentioning, people can
right,
go
exactly.
to
But I mean the other ones that are.
geniusnetworkevents.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, geniusnetworkevents.com is the site, and you can see some of the people that I'm choosing to mention, but there's others that I'm not. And there's also something that I'm thinking of doing, either this event or the next one, that that does is not about a big name Shamu. It's about doing something there that has never been done before. Uh,
Hmm.
and I won't do it unless I'm really fully ready to pull it off this year. And if I am, I'll do it. And if not, I won't. But
Hmm.
part of my thing is, I want to create a happy client experience with everything that
Hmm.
I do. So, whenever we buy something or attend something or sign up for something, uh, in most people wake up every day and they hope that they don't have to join a mastermind group or to attend an event. What it is there's something happening that they feel is going to um, help them in some area of their life that they're trying to solve for, or that they're just going to have an amazing time. And uh, most entrepreneurs are driven, curious, uh, achievement focused individuals, and so
Hmm.
they need tribes. They feel oftentimes isolated when it's a lonely business being an entrepreneur, even if you have a lot of team members and
Hmm.
employees, it can feel very isolating and lonely. So I try to create the place where when people come to it, they feel connected, they feel acknowledged, they actually learn things that are useful
Hmm.
that will bring a return on genius, is what we call it, which you actually
Hmm.
helped me with that name, right? What's the return on genius? So when I think about what is going to take place. I want people to walk out of there with more, in these words I got from Dan Sullivan, more direction, more confidence, more capability, more clarity with where they want to take their business. I want them to be able to purge what is no longer valuable to them. I want them to destroy anything in their business or their life that's not excellent so that
Hmm.
they can keep enhancing the things they want to enhance and let go of the crap that is no longer valuable. I want them to uh, feel that they can make very tough decisions to drop things that they have put up with because success traps are harder to get out of than failure traps. When
Mhm.
you're down and out and totally broke and you have no place to go but up, that's one thing. But when you're doing things that are making you money and your business may be chaos, but it's making you money and it's working, how do you resource yourself in a way to where you can just have a greater breakthrough? So
Mhm.
and it's not bullshit either. I mean, we
Mhm.
we don't. This is not some woo-woo sort of stuff, even though we've covered some pretty interesting things. Part of it is the happy client experiences. Everyone has expectations. You wake up every day with expectations. Every human on the planet has an expectation, and you can either get less than what you expected, and if you do, you're unhappy. You have a frowning face. You can get exactly what you expected, nothing more, nothing less. You kind of, oh, this is what I expected. And you're like, you can be satisfied. Um, you can be unhappy, you could be satisfied, or you could be happy. And in order to have someone be happy, to create the happy client experience, you have got to exceed their expectations. So every time that I do Genius Network meetings, every time I do an annual event, I'm like, okay, whatever needs to take place here, I want to do everything we possibly can to make the current event better than the last one. So I'm always putting
Mhm.
tons of pressure on myself, which I think is a good policy anyway. Some people are just, you know, okay with just getting by. And I think that's a recipe for mediocrity. I
Yeah.
I think it's lazy. I don't think it's thinking about what's in it for them. I think it's like, let's figure out how to do the least amount of work. And that's not where I operate from. I mean, it's like, let's freaking blow people away if we can. And
You know, you're thinking a lot about this idea of return on genius, about how that ties into because you're real. I was so happy when your book, What's in It for Them, when I heard the title of it for the first time, I thought, of course, that's like, why hasn't anybody written that book? Of course, you're the only person that it makes sense to have written it because it's been your life model and everything around it is great. So I was thinking about that in terms of return on genius. And if we think about what are the core payoffs of coming to the annual event or being a part of Genius Network, that by far, largely the mix of it's the annual event for all of the current members of Genius Network who are all businesses who are they're paid $35,000 to be part of that for a year. They come to meetings in your office in Tempe, and this is the one event where everybody comes together because you could be in Genius Network and never meet everybody. If you go, you just miss whatever meeting you go to. They come to 3 meetings a year plus the annual event. And there are people who are paying $100,000 to be part of your 100K group. And I mean, the people in these things, just to know who's in the room as the core of the group of people that are there, is they're not people who are just trying to get some idea. These are people who are big time investors in their business. They've already paid
Oh, oh,
$35,000 to
oh
be
yeah,
there.
yeah. Like, Chris Voss. So
Yeah.
I'm interviewing him and Jefferson Fisher, who's the trial
Mhm.
attorney, wrote a book called The Next Conversation, has, 6 million plus people on Instagram that
Mhm.
simply came from him recording 1 minute videos in his
Mhm.
car. Last time I talked to him, he never paid for a follower. He doesn't run ads to promote his Instagram page. He's just really useful. And him and Chris are phenomenal experts on effective persuasion and
Mhm.
communication.
Mhm.
So why not interview both of them together? That's never been done
Mhm.
before, right? And
Fantastic.
so, but Chris is a member of Genius Network. He's been a member for what, probably like 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
And I've interviewed him a bunch of times, but I'm interviewing him with this unique little twist at Genius Network. We got Dan Sullivan in the 100K group. We've got Tommy Mello, who's running a company that's valued, right around $1 billion. We got Tim
Hmm.
Schmidt, we got several people that are worth, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
So these are not, and it's funny too, because some of these people are not world famous.
Right.
Yeah, there's some people that are in the group that make more money than almost any of these clown info marketers
Yeah.
that are, there's people that are successful and then there's people that are reporters of success. And
Hmm.
I never ran, I never started a 100K group until I was at the level of income
Hmm.
and revenue to where I'm like a lot of people that are teaching people how to build and grow businesses aren't very good at building and growing businesses or making money.
Hmm.
They're just not.
Hmm.
And a lot of them are con artists and a lot of them are charlatans. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we bring real players. Here's a formula too. Uh, that part of it is great food.
Hmm.
So now I now own seedoil.com, right? And
Uh-huh.
we're creating a whole platform to help people quit eating toxic vegetable oils and
Yeah.
all the crap, because everyone talks about what to eat, but there's very little about what you're eating is actually cooked in, right? So
Hmm.
that's a whole nother topic. But great food, great location. We have beautiful location. I mean, where we hold the event is amazing. Great people, very important. Like the quality of the event has to do with how well you curate the audience.
Hmm.
And then the fourth is great conversations, and that could do themes, topics, what's going on in the world, uh, how to, it's not just about how to make your ambitions become a reality, but how to avoid the kryptonite. And anyone, if I want to attract superheroes into my world, which I do already,
Hmm.
Genius Network has taken on a life of its own, way beyond me.
Hmm.
That was evidenced when I took a, 1 year sabbatical in 2021, and I didn't run any of you ran one of the events during that time.
Hmm.
Yeah, you had Jesse Cole from Savannah Bananas speak.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
we had Stephen Harper at one of our 100K meetings, former
Yeah.
Prime Minister of Canada, and I didn't even get him. That was from one of our 100K members.
I know. Yeah.
I let my members and my team run my company for an entire year without me there. So it's definitely transcended me, which is great because I don't like the guru stuff. I mean, now let me preface this by saying I like it when people think I'm cool. My
Yeah.
low self-esteem really gets validated when I get external validation from people saying nice, wonderful things about me. That feels good and that's great, but
Right.
it's also a trap. And if you get into this trap where you try to make your event about
Yeah.
you as the guru. And a
Right.
lot of people, the reason they don't attract the type of people we have at Genius Network is they are so fixated on being admired versus being useful that they
Right.
focus on status instead of growth. Whereas for me, my focus is on let's help our audience grow, but grow the right things because see, everyone's talking about scaling. Let's scale a business. Like you don't want to scale cancer. You don't want to scale shit that's not working. There are certain things that you don't want it to be bigger.
Hmm.
You don't want more, you want less. And
Hmm.
so, the first year with Genius as an example is foundation. The second year's growth. The third year's acceleration.
Hmm.
And so we try to treat things that let's have people come in and get a solid thing. Let's not make it about me. Let's facilitate really powerful conversations and great dialogue. See, the reason I don't like what's happening with the word mastermind is you have all
Hmm.
these idiots that are calling seminars mastermind groups. And a
Hmm.
real mastermind group is dialogue, it's not monologue. And at the
Yeah.
annual, it's mostly speakers and interviews. It's not a lot of like tools and planning and putting people in small groups. We do that at the actual smaller Genius
Hmm.
Network meetings. The big annual event is more like a seminar. That's why we don't call it the Genius Network Annual Mastermind. We call it the Genius Network Annual Event, but people can
Hmm.
come there and they can see who everyone is. They can meet people, but it's really What really makes a good event, Dean, is the giving nature of the audience. This for me. This is what makes a good event for me.
Hmm.
I don't have people jumping up and down like trained monkeys. I don't like any of that stuff. I mean, some
Hmm.
people are really good at it, but I think it's kind of manipulative. Not kind of, it's totally manipulative.
Hmm.
And if you want to run a dance party and a DJ thing and a rave, that's fine. Just call it that. But I don't like mixing it in with a seminar. And some people
Right.
love that. Again, this is just me. So,
Yeah.
I say treat it like a 12-step group. Take what you like and leave the rest, right? So,
Well, I think you said something, one of the things I was writing in my journal about this in preparing and thinking about the payoff of what's in it for them, of people who come to the broader Genius Network, but specifically coming to the annual event. And it's that collection, you always refer to it as a connection network, is really
right.
what a genius network is. And connections lead to the most important thing, which is conversations.
Yes.
And if you look at the payoff of these, if we're, what are the drivers of a return on genius? Is going to be that you're going to be exposed to ideas that you could say, oh, I could do that in my business, or I could do that for my health, or I could do that for with my money. I could do, anything. If you look at health, wealth, elf, you look at all of those things. It's going to be an idea. It's going to be inspiration. It's going to be a connection and getting to have a conversation with somebody that inspired you. Where else are they going to be and have access to some of the people that you're bringing them to, right? So,
Oh yeah, no, no, they're not. And there'll be people this year that I guarantee you,
mhm.
you would spend millions to try to, put into a
Yeah,
room together if you had
and
to.
everything around it, every meal is together, everything is orchestrated to create those conversations, everything around it, all of the ways that you seat people at round tables where they're,
Oh yeah,
connected
even
with
even
other
our
people.
seating, yeah,
Yeah,
our seating is done. Now
strategic.
we're even utilizing AI based on people's
Mhm.
applications and stuff. We were doing this last year, and people are like,
Mhm.
"How did you know to sit me next to this person? Oh my God, well, it wasn't by accident. It's by design. I mean, we
Yeah,
spend all year preparing this thing." And
yeah,
so, and by the way, people have to fill out an application in order to, and they're like, "Well, I know you. Do I need to fill out an application?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care how much money you make or how
right.
famous you are."
Yeah.
You're going to fill out an application because we don't know what it is, currently. Like, I don't tell people what success is. Anyone that's like, this is what success, I mean, that's a little arrogant because
Hmm.
success means different things to different people. It's kind of like,
Hmm.
we did years ago, your model of I know I'm being successful when
Hmm.
everyone has a different success list. So, and to
Hmm.
go to your point about connections. So, in
Hmm.
my book, I talk about you're either communicating, you're connecting, or you're trying to escape. So
Hmm.
you can talk to someone, you can talk at someone, and you can communicate. When you're connecting, that's where you find common ground. That's where you find, and even if you don't find common ground, you're like completely the opposite of believing something someone else does,
Hmm.
but you're able to connect with them in a way to where you feel like, you're able to connect. You are connected.
Hmm.
In it's hard to say go connect with that person. I understand the words because it is a connection network, meaning I'll bring the people there, I'll bring the
Hmm.
conversations, and we'll also create is weird. This is about as woo-woo as I'm going to sound. There is a frequency that
Hmm.
runs through Genius Network.
Yeah.
It is an environment. There's an ethos of giving that takes place there, and people viscerally feel it because the people are really useful in
Hmm.
that environment. And so, when you're connecting, you feel good. There's this sort
Hmm.
of anxiety that lessens, or in some cases, completely goes away when you're connected,
Hmm.
or you're trying to escape, where you're like, I don't like this person. They're invading my space. I don't get all of this. And so I'm really, conscientious. I used to go to so many events early on when I was just trying to figure it out uh,
Hmm.
by myself. And it's uncomfortable for me
Hmm.
to go eat by myself or to be
Hmm.
alone. And most people go to events by themselves. So how do we make them feel welcomed? Well,
Connect and
we yeah,
understand.
we welcome them. We are
Yeah.
very, that's how we do it. So
Hmm.
um and the people in the group know that, hey, if you see someone sitting by themselves, we're not perfect. And some people actually they give off an energy, don't talk to me. But I'll tell
Hmm.
you, like people come to Genius Network and they're like, man, this is the most comfortable, easiest group of people that I've ever worked with, and they're just so helpful. And I'm like, yeah, because we curate it that way.
And so that curation and that environment and that energy and that care that goes into creating those opportunities for people to have those conversations, what I let thought about as the actual return on genius that people can get, the bankable result that comes from it, is that they're going to be introduced to an idea that they can use in their business and
Mhm.
meet the person who's doing it so they can have the conversation and get clarity on what happened, how to actually do that. I remember,
Right.
like, you think about some of these things. I remember years ago, Brendan Burchard shared his whole idea of circular virality, which was like breaking news at the time. The model that he was using to spend $1,000 a day on Facebook and build that out. That real practical, usable, exactly how to do it. Evan Carmichael sharing how he's built a YouTube channel with millions of subscribers. So you're going to get access to ideas from people who are actually doing the ideas that are putting them into place. Another access that they're going to have is to capabilities. And when I say that, I mean that you're going to get an idea, but you're also going to be exposed to the who's that can actually implement those things for you. You've got
Right.
such one of my favorite things is how curated the sponsors are. That the whole environment around who's there at the event that are, people who can actually do the things that you're talking about. You're going to get, exposure to those
Oh yeah.
people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, let me say this. So I used
Yeah.
to go to TED events, the
Hmm.
big TED Talk, not TEDx, but the actual
Yeah.
TED events. And they have a tagline, ideas worth spreading. And I
Yeah.
thought to myself, this is like back in 2010.
Yeah.
I was like, what entrepreneurs want? They don't just want ideas worth spreading. They want ideas that are worth using. And
Yeah.
so that's where I came up with my 10-minute talk process, where we now have, when someone's a Genius Network member, we have a membership site, and there's over 1,000 10-minute talks. And uh, when I started the 10-minute talks, the model was share a best practice or a strategy in 10 minutes or less that has made you at least $250,000 or more in
Hmm.
your business, or that you're currently doing that's doing that.
Hmm.
And you have 10 minutes to do it. And if you're able to deliver on that, then every minute would be worth $25,000 if you actually delivered
Hmm.
that 10-minute talk in a way to where someone got it and could go and
Hmm.
utilize the idea. So we started doing it, and it was a massive hit. I mean, you were at the 2012 one, right? That where I
Right.
first did New York City. We had
Yeah.
Ariana Huffington, we had Steve
Right.
Forbes, we had Neil deGrasse Tyson, Peter Diamandis, Ray Kurzweil, Mark
Yeah.
Hyman. We had 28 10-minute talks where people were sharing this, and then it just became a thing that I started
Hmm.
doing. And so
I
we,
remember, so I was one of those talks, one of those
yeah.
minute talks, and we talked about what would you do if you only got paid if you get the result. That was the genesis of that. Sharing that model. We've had other 10-minute talks about the 9-word email was
Oh yeah.
first exposed as a 10-minute talk, which has taken on this huge life of its own that has, I mean, I would love to see how much money has been made from people executing the 9-word email.
Oh,
It's,
I'm sure it's well, look, I mean, you invented the squeeze page back in 1997, right? That was the year.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then, the fact is there, we won't even mention the name. There's even a very big marketing book that is a bestseller that is basically a whole knocked off version of our podcast. And people take the ideas all the time, but the ones that actually give proper credit, those are the people I like. But
yeah,
it's literally the economy that all of this has created is billions of dollars. I mean, it literally
yeah.
is billions of dollars. But
So,
all that being said, because we can't make income claims here, and we're not making any income.
right.
This is and these aren't even income claims. This is a reality of it that's actually the case. That being said, though, so we had all these 10-minute talks, and there was this. So Genius Network became this whole emphasis on sharing really valuable ideas and things in a short period
Hmm.
of time. And it made it entertaining because if someone's 10-minute talk sucked, it was only 10 minutes, right?
Hmm.
So we'll still do like a handful of 10-minute talks at the annual
Hmm.
event. People love it, that sort of stuff. But the thing that happened though is what it did to the culture of the group,
Hmm.
how it actually created an emphasis on being useful and
Hmm.
valuable. And then when people would try to overly hype something, or some people are used to talking to people that are below them because they want to be the guru,
Hmm.
the authority figure. And
Hmm.
those sort of people, uh, they're no longer in the group. You mentioned one of them, and I don't want them in the group because they're more about, making themselves look good
Hmm.
versus
Hmm.
being good. And uh, so,
I've mentioned a couple of them.
well,
The
yeah,
other,
I'll let people guess whose name that
right,
is.
exactly.
But
The other, those things, so capabilities, ideas, capabilities, access to people who can do the actual things. Um, And on a raw sense, if you're somebody who has a capability that you do cool things, you've got access to customers at the annual event. I mean, not how many people come and meet people that end up doing business with them
Well,
because
yeah,
of,
yeah. Let me be cautious there though,
yeah,
because what I wanted, because that always makes some people peek up and go, "Oh yeah, I can come to Genius Network and I can get people to buy my stuff." I
more
can't
important is
stand.
collaborations. That's what
Absolutely.
comes. Yeah.
Yeah, tons of people do business with each other that
Hmm.
are in the group, but I don't want people coming there for that. And some people, if their motivation is let me come to the group and try to poach clients, like I talked to Dan Sullivan about that he should have
Hmm.
a group for some of these people called the Strategic Poach program. They come into the
Strategic approach group.
yeah, they try to poach your list, right? And I'll tell you, like over the years, there have been so many people that run groups that they join Genius Network and they come in and they're just trying to learn how it is that we run groups. And the people that are
Hmm.
collaborative that want to run groups, I'm like, okay, like if I like them and they're doing good stuff, because there's quite a few groups. I mean, we refer people
Yeah,
to other groups all the time. I mean, look, I'm the
yeah.
highest referring person in the world as strategic coach, right? So
Hmm.
Dan's a member of my group. I'm a member of his group. He pays me, I pay him, but we also refer. He refers a lot of people to me. I refer a lot of people to him. So there are collaborations, and I want people that come to Genius Network to be givers first, not
Hmm.
takers. And the people that are takers, they might enter the group, but they're not there very long. And
I thought about the perfect, and the environment that fosters those kind of things. I found in one of my old journals, of like November of 2016 was the first time and I remember having the idea and drawing the illustration of the idea of who, not how, of the difference between going down the who path or going down the how path. And I
yeah,
remember sharing that at the opening remark from the floor in the annual event, we were talking about that idea as a kind of a thought setting uh, intro. And then at Strategic Coach, we had expanded on that idea of who, not how. And then years later, a couple of years later, then Dan in the room in 100K with Ben Hardy and sharing the idea, the who not how, which with Tucker Max in the room, that then all of that collaboration with Hay House all coming out. You take an idea now from like the genesis of an idea all the way through to collaboration and outcome of that,
No,
which
exactly.
wouldn't have happened without the infrastructure, the collaborative environment of Genius Network.
Yeah, yeah, and so like so you've had several very big ideas that have through collaboration in Genius Network. Yeah, who not how that term came from you. That ended up then me bringing, Scott Hoffman, the book agent, Reed Tracy, who runs Hay House, Tucker Max. We did a whole session on books. Ben Hardy then approached Dan Sullivan and said, would you be interested in, collaborating together? They ended up doing three books, which are the number one selling business books at Hay House. So they did they did The Gap and the Gain, Who Not How, and 10x is easier than 2x. And of course, that 10x whole thing came from me originally in 2010 when I said, if you join Genius Network and you don't get a 10 times return on your money, I don't want you to renew for the next year. And I said, and I would follow it up with, it is a business. It's not that I don't want your money, but I don't want you to have to pay to be in here. This is a school
Mhm,
that pays you to attend because that's what Genius Network is. It is a literally a school for high achieving, you know,
mhm,
givers that if they utilize what we have, not use, not no one wants to get used. I want
mhm,
people to utilize me. I don't want people to use me. So if they utilize it, they're going to get a return. And you have been, you're a seed planter. And if you
mhm,
plant seeds with other collaborators, then you can grow big ideas. And it's funny, Dean, because the impact, the ripple effect that even just me and you for spawning ideas and things for people has been massive.
mhm,
And I've often made the joke that because, and I understand why, marketers that are really they're usually not respected. My partner, she's a doctor. You just mentioned the word doctor, and all of a sudden people are like, oh, there's a certain level of authority, even though there's a lot of doctors that are some of the most, after what happened over the last 5 years with COVID's, do no harm. There's many people with the title of doctor that, should not be allowed to hold that title because they did a lot. But anyway, without going on another tangent, there's how much have we invested in our marketing knowledge and our learning, and we keep teaching it. But how many people have opinions on what marketing is that have never even read a single book on marketing, have never
mhm,
ran an event, have never really helped anyone, never written an ad, a sales letter, a campaign, whatever, but they have all these opinions on it. So they're not uh, they're not often respected at all because there's been so many unethical marketers or so many people that have taken advantage that it's given marketing a bad name. But I'll say this, and I know we need to wrap up here in a
mhm,
couple minutes, but think of selling as persuasion and influence, and think of marketing as storytelling. So if
mhm,
you tell a better story, if you become more influential, you're going to be more effective. So we cover all of that in Genius Network. But you the but here is that the most expensive information in the world is bad information. And if you give someone an elegant idea, like who, not how, and you do it with someone that can actually put something together, because it's a real it's a real drag to throw pearls before swine, metaphorically speaking.
Right,
And
right.
so, if you throw the pearls to the right person, they'll do something with it. If you give mining tips to the right miner, they'll know how to mine. If you, my friend Keith Cunningham, he has a great line where he says, more businesses die from indigestion than starvation. Whereas
Mhm.
I think it's both, though. There's many companies that die from starvation, and there's many companies that die from indigestion. And like right now, either one of me and you have any lack of opportunity. I mean, if what really bothers both of us is indigestion more than starvation, because we know how to go get customers. We know how to do all that, and we teach people how to do that. And we're very effective at it. But I also, sometimes someone will come into Genius Network and they want to build and grow their company, and we'll be like, there's a very well-known woman, amazing. She's, Genius Network member. And she had come to me because she wanted to really build and grow her business. And I could just tell by her voice that she was about to psychologically crack. And then I used your term, my super happy fun day. And I said, Dean has this thing called a super happy fun day where you just take a day and you just do things that are really fun because all work and no play makes anybody a dull person, right? And so I had this hour conversation with her, which she was originally hoping was going to be about how to build and grow her business. And it was about what does she like doing for fun? When's the last time that she did it? And then once after quite a while of breaking down the wall that she had psychologically about how building and growing this thing was important, I was like, well, it ain't going to happen if you're completely exhausted because you're going to go run another race when you're just fried right now. You need to charge your batteries. You need to rejuvenate yourself. You need to give your brain some time to breathe.
Mhm.
Entrepreneurs that are too tightly scheduled cannot transform themselves. And
Mhm.
so we had a whole conversation about super happy fun days. I literally on the phone had her make a list of what she likes doing for fun. And I'm like, okay, great, I got it. And I'm like, oh, no, no. When are you going to do it?
Yeah,
Oh,
let's schedule it.
probably
Let's
like,
schedule. Yeah, yeah.
maybe I go 2, 3 months out. I go, can you pick one day? So it ended up, and she's like, yeah, I could. I go, okay, well, then let's go and do it. And so, well, no, I'll do it later. No, no, you can do it right now. Let's find
Mhm.
it. Like, literally, don't tell me that you're going to be able to do this if we can't commit to it, because I don't want you to you're not here to make me feel good. This is not about my life. I mean, I can convey stuff to you, but, you got to pick the time to do it. And she went and scheduled it out. And then it ended up, she called me uh, 3 weeks later. She had taken the whole weekend off with her husband, did a bunch of stuff that was fun. She's like, oh my God, I feel so good. And then she started doing it on a regular basis. But it
Great.
was just an
Yeah,
already successful person that needed to have a sounding board
yeah.
with someone else that left to her own she would not have done. And that's what I look at Genius Network. It's just a really great sounding board.
Mm.
And I do my best. And some people it takes a while because they're so
Yeah.
wound up. They're so used to not having fun. But we have a tool in Genius somewhere called a Fun Times tool. And it's like I'll tell people, go get a massage every single day for a month, an hour to 90 minutes. And some of you,
Have
you
you
know,
ever done that?
of course,
Yeah. Every day
yeah.
for a month? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And here's what I would say. What I'll do is if you're getting deep massages, don't get a deep massage every day because
Right.
that's actually not useful to your body. So if
Hmm.
you don't like massages, either go do a breath class or
Hmm.
go do a yoga class, but do
Hmm.
something that works on your nervous system, right? Because some people
Hmm.
actually hate massages. So it's like,
Hmm.
can you hike in the morning, every day? Can you, go get a pedicure and then you
Hmm.
go, do like
Yeah.
something every
Some
single day
self-care type of
that
thing, right?
and the bigger thing though is to just let your brain decompress
Hmm.
because driven people never stop. They're constantly in a, like, and I say this not because I've transcended any of this. I'm a freak show when it comes to like, I am wired to continuously work. And because I've been in recovery for so long, it's really apparent how easy it is to get sucked into workaholism because workaholism is the respectable addiction.
Hmm.
You make money, you get status, but the thing is, some sort of recovery work. And I tell people, if you're at a financial level, like many people can't do this, it's not cheap. If you went to a really high end, uh, like Four Seasons massage. We're going to pay 250 to 300 bucks. I could cost you $9,000,
Mhm.
in a month to do it there. But it's like go to a reflexology place. They cost 50
Right,
bucks. You'll
right.
usually get a better massage and you'll feel better.
Yes,
Go
yes.
to, mix it up quite a bit. And the point is
Acupuncture, right. Yeah.
after a week or so of just doing it, your brain will come up with ideas that will make that a better investment than oftentimes running ads and
Yeah.
campaigns. And it'll be like, holy shit, why am I even doing this? Why am so it's like, how do you solve one problem that solves 10 problems, that solves 50 problems? And
Yeah.
I will often tell people, the $1 million racehorse thing. If you had $1 million racehorse and every time that horse ran a race, you'd win $1 million, how would you treat that horse? You would not keep it running 24/7. You would not shove crappy food down his throat. You would get proper rest, proper nutrition. You'd have the best trainers. You'd run the right races. So part of the massage every day is not so you can be a better racehorse. That's part of it. The bigger part is so you're actually running the right races because
Mhm.
doing things right versus doing the right things are two different things. And so that's
Mhm.
part of what I want to do with how we help our clients is a few basic moves produce all results, which is what my friend Dave Kekich would say. What are
Mhm.
the few basic moves that are going to produce the most results? Sometimes you know what those moves are, but you're so much in a process of complication that you can't do those things, or you simply don't know what they are. So people get introduced to how to look at what to do, different collaborations. They have a sounding board because a lot of people, they won't do the things because for whatever reason, they have not validated in their mind that it's
Mhm.
okay to do. Even the massage thing that I just said, listening
Mhm.
to it on a podcast versus being immersed in the environment,
Yeah.
completely different experience.
Yeah.
People can hire me, which I've got a giant list right now of people that were trying to schedule things with me. One of my team members put up cupofgenius.com, and it's a 20-minute conversation with me for $2,000. And it's so funny because I can share some of the best insights for free to someone. They won't do jack shit with it. They
Right.
pay me $2,000 for 20 minutes, and there's that focus, completely different level of digestion that takes place. But it's not about the 2 grand that they're paying me. It's about the person's commitment to it. Because someone that invests $2,000 to spend 20 minutes talking about something that's important to them, they listen from a different level of receptivity.
Yeah.
So you have to create the environment. You have to create, the intention. And if you do, everyone cares.
Mhm.
People say they care about their family, they care about their
Mhm.
career, they care about their team members, they care about their health, but are they committed to it? So, part of it is getting people to the commitment level of what matters and get rid of the shit that doesn't, because there's most of the things that take our attention are really what we don't want to be paying attention to.
So when is the actual annual event this year?
Well, this year it's November 6th, 7th, and 8th, 2.5 days. So it's
In
Thursday.
Scottsdale.
Yeah, Paradise Valley, Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona, a beautiful
Okay.
resort. And yeah, that information cannot be disclosed unless you go to the website and see it.
Right. Where
You-
yeah, what's the website specifically to go to? Genius Network
Well, there's
Event.
Genius Network is our main site, geniusnetwork.com, and then the event site is geniusnetworkevents.com with an
Okay.
S. Genius Network Events dot com. And yeah, that's if
The
people know
first three people get a bubble bath with Joe Polish.
with you this year, the
With
bubble bath
this year it's with
is
me.
going to be with
Exactly.
you. Yeah, yeah. And then I'm not doing that again.
I'm not doing that again. Oh, that's so funny. Well, I'm going to be there, and I hope to see you guys, listeners, there. I can't say enough about it. Um, I don't even I know some of the surprises that are coming, but let's just say all of those things that we talked about are the main reasons to be there. So if you've been curious about it, you've heard us talk about it for years. If you've ever thought this might be the place for me, then here's your invitation. So
Yeah,
genius
you have to
event.
fill out an application, and if you do,
Yeah.
let us know you heard about it from listening to Dean here. If you're new into our world, and all of the speakers, all of the topics, all the surprises, all of the things that we obviously tell people are going to happen, those are just excuses to bring people to an environment where when you walk out, you will be a better, more capable, more clear
Hmm.
entrepreneur, not just personally, but I mean not just professionally, but personally.
Hmm.
And I believe every year people walk out of there with just, you know, a new set of glasses.
Hmm.
And sometimes we get people out of their glasses because oftentimes we'll talk about how to improve vision things so you don't even have to wear glasses. So I'm using that metaphorically. So yeah,
Right.
and people know if they're ready. You know,
Yeah.
if it's a hell yes or you're thinking about it, then check it out.
Yeah.
And if you're a taker or you're not collaborative, then go to another event because that's not what we do here. We want we want amazing givers that have achievement and are working on things that are significant and ethical and important to their lives and hopefully to the lives of other people. And that's what's up.
Speaking
So
about something important to other people, just quickly, you're wearing your Genius Recovery t-shirt there. Do you
yeah.
want to say a little something about Genius Recovery? Because there may be some, but that may be just what somebody needs to hear right now.
Yeah. And Genius Recovery is where I spend a lot of my time, and it helps me with my own recovery. I've found that if you feel like life is very difficult and very hard, or you're struggling with addiction or depression, loneliness, one of the best ways to get into a better place is to be of help to other people. So I created Genius Recovery because so many of our members are like we have so many open conversations about what's going on in our lives and that I was like, okay, I don't even know what to tell people other than let's start putting together resources that are helpful to
Mhm.
people. So the goal of Genius Recovery is to change the global conversation about how people view and treat addicts with compassion instead of judgment and find the best forms of treatment that have efficacy and share those with the world. Because I think what is called addiction is really it's pain. And my friend Gabor Mate says the question is not why the addiction, but why the pain. And if you have pain in your life, why is that? And how do you scratch the itch without doing more damage? And so if you're lonely or depressed or anxiety ridden or addicted or desperate or hurting, there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel better. It's how you go about scratching that itch. So we have resources from videos to a recovery companion, which is an AI clone that I've written two books on addiction recovery. People can download for free my book, Understanding Addiction Recovery, which is summaries of some of the best insights I've got from interviews with not only recovering addicts, but some of the top addiction experts in the world. It's very much a compassion based approach because I think the world already you cannot punish pain out of people, and so we
Mhm.
want to everything that we discover that is the best ways to help and treat addiction. We do our best to cover. So we're getting ready to launch physical recovery kits that are first aid kits for recovery. There's an amazing blog. If there's any one thing that I would direct people to, even to get an understanding, I wrote a short letter on geniusrecovery.org. If you go under resources and click on open letter, it's a very short letter I wrote that gives my perspective on addiction. And then we have this amazing blog, not written by AI, but written by one of the top addiction experts in the world, Ken Wells, that we publish a new blog twice a week. And
Mhm.
people just start reading that, especially people that struggle with workaholism or internet addiction. And it covers not just substances, but behavior addictions from
Mhm.
sex to gambling to workaholism to internet, and that's really useful. And our goal is to just save lives. We have a big initiative where we want to save 20,000 lives a year of the 100,000 plus people that are dying from opiate addictions. And so
Mhm.
that's what Genius Recovery is. So if you need any help, or if you have someone in your life that's struggling with an addiction, it's a resource there. And I don't pay myself anything for it. I never have taken a penny out of it. I've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into it myself, and we're hoping to make a big impact. And it's really fulfilling for me. It's very difficult work when you're working with addiction because it's complex. But man, I think half the people that go to mastermind groups and go to seminars and stuff, a lot of them secretly struggle with addiction, but they don't even understand that it's an addiction, or there's so much shame around it that they don't call it that. And I think you know, we take our members to prisons before the meetings voluntarily if they like to. We just started geniusyouth.com if for young people ages 18 to 24. And yeah, man, we're here to make a big impact. And when I say make an impact, a quantifiable one, because everyone can say they're making an impact, but what the hell does that actually mean? So
Right.
yeah. So thanks for
I
asking.
love it. All right, man. Well, thank you. That was fun. Reunited. It's the first time we've done a podcast like this in a while.
Yeah, yeah. And so I hope to see some of the people that have listened to this in the future. And thank you again,
Awesome.
Dean.
Meet
We're,
you
we're, we're
more.
going to do some I Love Marketing episodes here. So we're going to have some new ones. So if you've not been
Awesome.
an active subscriber of I Love Marketing, check those out because we're gonna do some new ones.
Awesome.